Live. Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Career 911. Here we have another Google Hangout, and I hope everyone is doing well. Today we're here with Joel Shapiro. He is a clinical associate professor and executive director of the program in data analytics at Kellogg School of Management here at Northwestern University. So thank you so much for joining us today, Joel.
My pleasure.
Thank
Thanks.
you. So of note, in Module 6, so next week, Joel actually gives a lecture on what educational credentials do employers look for. So please watch that lecture because it's really good. Thank you. I want to review this week's topics that you've hopefully already watched, but maybe soon to watch, and that is the lecture on the gift of influence by Dr. Nicholas Pierce, who is also at Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern. And how do you finance your education from one of our assistant deans of education here at Northwestern University Feinberg School of Medicine. Her name is Cynthia Gonzalez. And how can you thrive in diverse environments by Leslie Ann Brown Henderson, also of Northwestern University. So we're going to take some questions and we're going to go back and forth, and hopefully we'll get through all of the questions that you are answering or interested in hearing us answer. So. You want to go first?
Sure. Yeah. I love this first question, so I'm really glad to be here, and this one certainly resonates with me. The question says, I understand communication skills are critical for success, but how does one measure this skill set without majoring in communication? Are there resources that further explain what it means to have perfect communication skills? I added my own quotes there because there are no perfect communication skills. Maybe there's a course or a class or some idea you can recommend. So the reason why I like this question so much is that I actually am very, very passionate about the importance of really good communication, right? Because no matter what it is that you're in, whatever field you're in, the analysis going on in your head, the work that you are doing, if you can't communicate that effectively to somebody, then it really just stays in your own head, and it's very hard to translate into something actionable. It is a hard thing to measure, and absolutely, if communication is something you're very passionate about, there are communication programs out there where you can get training. You know, there are very likely some MOOCs on them. I don't have any sort of offhand to sort of give you. There are non-credit programs, there are degree programs, all these things that emphasize communication. However, I would really suggest that you consider communication training to be a regular and integrated part of any of your education, because every time that you write a paper, simply write an email, give a presentation, you are practicing and you're refining your communication. And I could probably spend our entire time together talking about this one thing, but I want to just sort of make one thing really clear as you sort of think about your own communication style. Communication is most definitely not about what you want to say. It is entirely about what you want others to hear and understand. And so, again, pursuing your own credential in this field is great. I think most people, though, can be great communicators if they keep that in mind, think through clearly who their audience is, whether a teacher in the classroom or colleagues or a boss or friends, and you be really, really clear about knowing what you want them to get out of your communication, and you tailor your communication to that. I think that's what good communication programs teach, certainly in very robust ways with lots of different strategies. But at its core, that's what it's really about, and you can do that anywhere, not just in these formal communication programs.
Yeah, that was a great answer. I totally agree. There's actually a whole body of research on communication in health. And so if you're interested in the study of communication, there also are plenty of things you could pursue to study any form of communication between patient and provider, any patient and patient, patient and family, all kinds of communication fields that you could go into. So.
And in fact, the School of Communication here at Northwestern recently launched their master's degree in healthcare communication. Yes. Right? So I actually don't know that much about that degree program, but it might be worth checking out online just to see sort of how they refer to these concepts, the kinds of resources they have, how they frame the whole idea of it.
Right. And many of you actually who are taking this MOOC speak more than one language. And that is another aspect that's really important in today's global world of healthcare and health delivery. It's really important that if you do know another language or maybe more than one other language, please keep it up. It's really important to have those skills to meet all kinds of patients and work with all kinds of people.
Should
Okay.
I do one more? Then go to you. You want to do
there's
it?
a few. I seem to have a few piling up on my side. So,
Oh, yeah.
a quick question, and then I'll do a couple questions. First, is there a major difference between a DO and an MD? I have answered this before. I'll do it again. MD and DO are two different philosophies of practicing physicians, and so I believe they both are very meritorious, and if you are interested in being a physician, you should look at what does it mean to be an osteopathic doctor, a DO, versus a medical doctor, MD, more the allopathic approach to medicine. They are very different, and you can look at those online, and if you need more information, you can actually contact both societies. So there's the American Medical Association, which is one of the many societies for MDs, and then there's Osteopathic Doctor Society, and you can get more information from both of them. Hello, I'm just 15 years old and willing to pursue a future career in the field of medicine. That's great. The question is, can you tell me how your life is as a doctor and what should be the next steps that I should take? Well, first you got to graduate high school, and I'm really excited that at age 15 you want to be a physician, because that's awesome. It's a lot of work and it's a long course, right? I think I've described my education in one of the videos, and so it's about 18 years, right, from the time you graduate high school all the way through to including clinical residency training and fellowship after medical school and undergrad, and I had a couple years of graduate school in between. So it's a long course. It's totally worth it if you're committed and if it's right for you. And understand that there's plenty of other fields of health and healthcare delivery that you could go into if you feel that the medicine career or the medicine path is a little too long or intense or just not fitting right for you or not feeling right for you. So graduate high school and then get to college and do well on your pre-medical courses. So all the pre-medical requirements, you need to do well in order to get into medical school. And of course, do well on your MCAT, which is the admissions test for medical school, at least in the United States. So thank you for your question and good luck. Your turn.
My turn. All right. This one says, hi, I've got a good job opportunity, but that requires me to drop out of school. I'm now a freshman in university where I'm studying computer science. To be honest, I don't feel like programming all day, so I've made my decision to quit. However, I still want to get some good education. I learned about adult education programs in Module 6, and is there a good one you think might be suitable for me? So, yeah, there are a few different things in here that I just want to touch on briefly. So if you have a job opportunity and you think that that's better right now in your life than being in school studying computer science, I totally respect that. That's an individual decision. I will, however, point out that when you say that you're studying computer science but you don't feel like programming all day, for any of you out there learning a hard skill set, keep in mind that it doesn't mean that for the rest of your life you need to do that and only that. And in fact, as far as computer science goes, that is a wildly in-demand skill right now. And so while, if you don't like something, you shouldn't be doing it. I say that pretty confidently. But if it's the kind of thing that you think has value in the eventual job marketplace and can make you a valuable professional, maybe you want to think about gaining those computer science skills or any other skills, and then thinking creatively about how you can apply those within industry, right? And again, a job's a great thing to have. And so again, maybe leaving this program is the right thing for you, but only do that if you're really confident that what you're doing puts you on a positive trajectory. And think carefully before giving up a skill set. If you're great at computer science, maybe you want to continue to do some of that, because there are a lot of organizations out there in industry that would love to have people who are really good at computer science and data and understanding how to make sense of all the data that's coming our way these days. You asked about good adult education programs. There are a lot of really good ones out there. So in the Chicago area, I'm partial to our School of Professional Studies here at Northwestern. It's a really good program, but there are other ones that across the entire country. And things you need to think about are, can you access them easily, right? I mean, can you go to class easily enough, right? Is it nearby so that you can actually make it to class? Do they have online options? And if so, are they really high quality? And that's really the overarching question I would be asking. is it really high quality? What are the credentials and the qualifications of the people who will be teaching you? And also, can you see very explicit and very specific cases of student successes who have gone to that particular institution? Because that's a really nice proxy for whether it's a good program. It's how people do once they leave that particular program. So adult education programs are all over the place, and you can find them easily with Google search or whatever it is you want to do. But then there are these questions about quality that you want to make sure that you ask before you commit to anything.
Yeah, you want to know what's their job placement rate, what kind of jobs do those students who graduate from those programs get, and are they aligned with what you're interested in doing?
Yeah, what you can study, right? That's an important one. Do they have something that you are interested in?
But I do want to emphasize that what Joel said earlier is that, being in computer science field doesn't mean you're going to program all day necessarily. There's a lot of different permutations of what a computer science major does. So I really emphasize that you should think about what are some of the jobs that computer science majors hold outside of just programming all day.
Right. And there are employers, by the way, who are going to look at a computer scientist and say, wow, that person doesn't just have programming skills, but they're a good thinker, a good problem solver. Mm-hmm. And those are skills that employers need, mm-hmm. significantly right now. So, yeah, if that's something you're interested in, you like, stick with it.
Yeah. And it's not too late, even if you dropped out and you want to go back into it. If that's something that is what you have talent to do, then you could easily get back on that saddle and continue in that program as well.
That's a good one.
All right, another one. Okay, GPA, grade point average, is weighed heavily in graduate programs. My GPA is below a 3.0. I am currently a research assistant and have volunteered in hospital settings. What suggestions do you have to make my application to programs such as PA, physician assistant, or MPH, Masters in Public Health, more competitive? Should I keep trying to apply until a program accepts me? Great question. I think that absolutely one of the many things that a school looks at for admission to their school is a GPA, grade point average, and particularly not necessarily the overall grade point average, but what are the grades, what are the courses that you do better in than others? Which ones have you not done so well in? So for a Master's in Public Health, that admissions process, they tend to look at more what's your global reason for wanting to pursue a Master's in Public Health? Are you really interested in some of the tenets of public health, and which ones? And is it more community health? And if so, have you done a lot in that field over time? So what's your experience outside of school? So I see you're a research assistant and you volunteered. Well, have you worked in a community organization before? If you're really interested in pursuing more like the biostatistics or the epidemiology part of a Master's in Public Health, so more hardcore sciences, they're going to be looking for your skills in math, your baseline skill in math courses. So if you did better on those in your undergraduate program, then you will be okay with the 3.0, as long as you have some other life work experiences, which it looks like you have. You really need to talk to the programs. So what I would highly recommend, at least for a Master's in Public Health, I would recommend that you contact some of the directors of admission or offices of admission for some of these programs and ask, and schedule an appointment, especially if they're local, nearby you, and go talk to them, because that's their job. They want to be able to talk to people, prospective applicants to their program, and you can ask, this is what I have so far, this is what I'm doing now in my work. I really want to come here and obtain a Master's in Public Health because of this, and this. I'd like to do this in my future. And so what can I do to make my application stronger? You can do this for any school. You can always call an office of admissions, and somebody will be willing to talk to you, even over the phone, about what could make your application stronger. And sometimes you do have to take a few courses over again, or different types of courses in a particular field, like science or math, for example, at a local community college, or maybe even online would be okay, depending on the school you're applying to, and take it from there. For a physician assistant school, it's a little different. Some of the schools these days, to enter into a physician assistant, the competition is much higher. So, for example, there are some physician assistant programs that are almost as competitive as a medical school program, and then there's everything in between. So again, you do have to have really good science grades. You have to show your commitment to why you want to be a physician assistant. You know, I see you have volunteer work experience in the hospital, and you have some research assistant work. How long is that? How much in depth is that? Those are the kinds of things admissions counselors for PA school are looking for. So likely for under a 3.0, it's not going to get into a PA. You're not going to be able to get into a PA school yet. What I would recommend likely is have those conversations with school admissions counselors for PA school, and likely take some local science classes at a local community college or something like that.
Yeah, and I would just say, I mean, just to reemphasize, schools have a great incentive to have you put your best foot forward as you're applying to them. So even if you aren't local, sometimes they can Skype with you or just talk on the phone. Ask the folks in those schools what you can do to put forward a better application. That's true in whatever context you're talking about. And they have, like I said, every incentive to make sure that you are putting forth your best foot. They will be a great source of advice.
Yeah, excellent. I'm going to take one more, and then I'll let you go next. I just watched the video, Day in the Life, Clinical Part 1. Basically, that's the video about you and your work that you do. In the video, you mentioned you're a generalist, a primary care provider, and that you don't subspecialize. Will you please elaborate on that? What does it mean to subspecialize? Didn't you have to specialize to become a surgeon? It's a great question. I had to specialize in obstetrics and gynecology in order to get to be an obstetrician gynecologist. But then within that field of obstetrics and gynecology, I had a choice. I could have gone on for further fellowship training in oncology, GYN oncology, so taking care of women's patients with cancer, women with cancer, reproductive endocrinology, so things like helping to preserve or couples to obtain fertility, and then, or I could have gone to urogynecology, so the study of urologic conditions in women, and I could have also chosen other fields, infectious disease and adolescent gynecology. So I chose to stay general because I liked it all. So yes, I'm a surgeon and an obstetrician, but I like to stay general so I could have flexibility with being able to see all the issues of primary care gynecology. So that's why I did that. It's just personal choice. Your turn.
All right. This question says, the other day I mentioned that I would rather be at the bottom of my class at a good school or prestigious school than at the top of my class in a less than ideal school. This time the quotes are from the question. Most of the physicians in the room disagreed. To my surprise, I'm curious to hear your thoughts and reasoning. So first thing I want to point out is that the less than ideal, sort of what we're talking about, it's really important that when you are in school, that you are in a school that is accredited, right? So let's first stipulate that you're in something that has both national accreditation, and then an even higher hurdle is regional accreditation. So once you're talking about an accredited school, yeah, I kind of agree with the physicians in some ways. People, in my opinion, you might disagree with me on this one, they want to see that you can succeed where you are, right? If you are in a very, very prestigious school and you're not doing all that well, what it shows is that you were able to get into that school. That doesn't necessarily tell you something very recently. I think that making sure that wherever you are doing the best work that you can and that you are succeeding there is incredibly important. That sort of will go along with this narrative, assuming that you're talking about after school, you're going to go look for a job and you've got to tell some compelling story about your skill set, right? Showing that you just succeeded wherever you were, whether at a prestigious school or less than ideal school. You know, that's the story that you have to be able to tell, that you've been able to succeed. And that's an easy story to tell when you've demonstrated success or good grades or whatever it is, wherever you are.
Agreed. Do well wherever you are. Make the best of what you can do. And even at the most prestigious schools, I mean, the prestigious is relative.
Yeah.
We can't all go to the same or top 5 or 10 or even top 20 schools in the country or in the world, right? Because this is a global class. So I wouldn't worry about that. You get in, you do well, you get into the school that you're in and do well. But you have to remember there is a curve. And so even at the most prestigious schools in the world, someone's got to fail, someone's got to be average, and someone's got to be at the top. So just do your best wherever you are. Okay, that's really the bottom line.
And the reputation also shouldn't supersede the fact that different schools have strengths in different places, right? So if you're interested in a particular area, discipline, whatever it is, you may find that schools that you haven't heard of, or you might sort of seem less than ideal or less than prestigious, that they have real strengths in that area. And you shouldn't let that deter you from going to them simply because of some brand that you think other people have heard of. You really want substance, quality, and succeed in that context.
Yeah, this is 2015 going forward. It's not all about where you came from in terms of the school name, because the school name doesn't necessarily give you a job. And right now, when school costs so much, no matter where you live in this world, you've got to be able to get value from how much money you've put into that, and time and effort, and all the blood, sweat, and tears that goes into getting a degree. So you have to understand that you have to be at the school that fits right for you, and do well, and don't worry about if it's a name brand or not.
And that actually goes, there's another question on here. It says, if I'm not attending a school that has a very good reputation, what can I do to make up for that? It's really the same answer, right? It's succeed. Be really clear about what it is that you're good at. Get some practical experience, right? Because this is all going to be a portfolio that if you're on the market for a job, that employers are going to look at. You need to present the whole picture of you, one of which should be that whatever school you're at, you have succeeded.
Absolutely, and if it's and if you're not only just looking for a job, you're actually looking to get into like a graduate school or a professional school. It's not about which school you are at now. It's how you did, how well you did, and what else you did in addition to that. So then, if you're at a school that maybe is not as well known for a particular thing, or doesn't graduate medical students, for example, or future medical students, for example, then do other things that help complement that. Right? Go get some fellowships or internships or jobs, get some experiences that are unique and that help, again, make you look unique for amongst that sea of applications that we've received. Thank you. All right, so another question. When you became an OBGYN doctor, does that take longer? Is it your standard 4-year medical school and 3-year residency, or do you have a fellowship? So it's 4 years of medical school. This is for United States. 4 years of medical school after 4 years of bachelor's degree, at least. So 8 years at least, plus unless you're in a combined program. Some schools still have the 6-year undergraduate medical school accelerated program. It's few in this country, in the United States. And then you go on to residency. In OBGYN, it's a 4-year residency. And then from there, fellowship is 3 years if you choose. And some fellowships are 2 years as well for OBGYN, depending on the type of fellowship. If you just want to stop and be a generalist after 4 years of residency, so be it. Then you're an OBGYN. The next question, I'm interested in exercise physiology and medicine. If I pursue a MD, what would be the specialization I should pursue that will allow me to combine these two fields? I had thought about pursuing a degree as a doctor of physical therapy or a degree in exercise physiology, but I feel that will limit what I can do if I also want to practice as a general physician. Absolutely. We touched base on this, and Dr. Christy Kirshner has a video in our Keeping It Real video series, and she talks about being a physiatrist and physical medicine and rehabilitation, and that is a great way to combine exercise physiology and medicine. Also, the field of family medicine allows you to be a generalist for a general practitioner, but also allows you to subspecialize, if you like, because they also have fellowships here in the United States to pursue things such as exercise physiology or physical medicine and rehabilitation. Those are just two examples. If you don't want to be a physician, you could actually go into like physical therapy and combine those two fields as well, or occupational therapy. So there's a whole host of options that you have. Next question. I'm an international medical graduate of 2003. I have been associated with healthcare as a research consultant in Chicago. It has been a while that I'm thinking of taking my license exam to apply for residency. I've heard from a lot of people that old graduates are unable to get interviews. For the research that I had been working on, I have a few publications under my name. I'm trying to be one of the main authors for an HIV study. Please, can you shed some of your experience that old graduates are able to get into residency? Absolutely. I don't believe in this old graduate thing. It's not, you're never too old to either start a new degree or start a new career. It's really up to you and what's in your heart and how old you feel in your heart and your abilities to start something new. Understanding that in residency, it's a long haul. It's a 3-year to 4-year, sometimes more, depending on the type of residency and if you go on for further specialization and fellowship. So that's really up to you. We do not, and we are not allowed to, it's against the law, to discriminate against age or anything else for that matter. We love diverse applicants, and I use the word diverse very broadly. So color, creed, religion, male, female, whatever, age. It's important. Lived experiences actually, and having more work experiences like you are describing actually can improve your chances of getting in, because we like mature applicants, and we like applicants who come with different sets of lenses to see through, and different ideas and different lived experiences.
And that's an important lesson sort of beyond just this context, right? If you have more experience than other people who might be applying for something similar, leverage that, right? Tell that story about why your experience makes you a really good candidate, a very valuable person to have around. It's a great lesson to take to all sorts of contexts.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. It doesn't matter if it's for medicine or for anything. Please know that it's all, the whole package that you bring to the table is really important, and how you can relay that again, through good communication skills and through some of the skills that you gained earlier through this course, building that career portfolio that we helped walk you through. It's important, that just makes you a stronger candidate. The next question, having worked for over 3 years within a medical facility, but with no major science courses, can I still apply for a physician assistant program? So again, you need to know what are the requirements of the schools that you're looking to apply for. Physician assistant school usually has some level of requirements. So you need to go figure out what their requirements are, and that's usually on websites through Google search, depending on the school. And again, you could always call the admissions office, and this goes for any program, and ask what their requirements are, so that you may have to take some more courses or do something else before you apply. Do you have another? Yeah.
Sure. Is it ever a bad thing to have too many degrees? Yes. You think I was going to say yes?
Yeah.
So look,
I do.
I think that really, I think the answer is it depends. It depends on sort of how you're sort of coming across to those you want to influence, right? So it is possible that you can sort of degree jump, and if that's for personal enrichment and something that you love, then that's great. I encourage you to continue your education throughout your entire life. That's a wonderful thing. Within the professional context, if you look like you are very unfocused, or if you're always trying to get into the next thing and you're not entirely sure about where you want to be, it has the potential to make you look a little bit scattered. One of the things that I think is really important, sort of regardless of the number of degrees that you get, is that you have some regular employment, engagement, and some work context, because sometimes people are jumping in and out of the work context and going back to school and then getting back in. It can look a little sporadic, and if you're talking about sort of looking for that next job in particular, that can look a little odd sometimes, that you just don't know what you're doing, and would somebody hire you if you're just likely to go back and quit your job and go get another degree? That can be a bit of a red flag for people. If you're talking about part-time education and you're always holding a job and there's some sort of continuity, or there's some sort of regularity that you have within the workforce, then good for you for continuing to improve your education, even if it's sort of within one discipline or if it's broadening yourself out. So it's really about whether you're coming across as looking very scattered and jumping from thing to thing, or whether there's some sort of continuity that gives people confidence in your ability to stay focused on what they need you to in a professional context.
Yeah, I can't agree more. You have to be able to tell the story of your resume or your CV. You have to be able to say, well, I pursued this extra degree because I really thought it was relevant for this, or I started this program but then didn't complete because I felt it wasn't the right fit. So as long as you can tell the story and tell it in a compelling way, with with reasonable reasons for why you did what you did, then we're fine with it.
Yeah, and I mean, and it doesn't have to be relevant to your job, right? You could have someone who works in a healthcare setting who said,
Sure.
The reason I went for that master's degree in literature is because I love reading and I just wasn't doing it enough and it just energized me. But I continue to work in healthcare.
Right.
Like,
Good
that's
point.
a great story too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's compelling too.
Right.
It doesn't just have to be professionally relevant, but there has to be that story in there somewhere that
Right.
you can tell that is sort of
Right.
clear as to why you're doing it.
Right, and don't feel compelled, at the other hand, to like get a whole string of degrees just because you think it's going to give you a better job. That's not always
Right.
the case.
Right, very true.
Right. I'll give you a good kind of example. MD doesn't necessarily mean you get paid a ton of money, right? Relative to some other professions that you could have less time in school and different job hours, and so it's not about necessarily the string of degrees that you have that land you that job that you're looking for. So think about it before you go on to continue to have more degrees.
Yeah, I actually have both a JD, a law degree, and a PhD, but that was very much because I wanted to do this career change. I was practicing law for a short time, and I just didn't like it enough to continue to do it. So that was a really explicit career change, not a, heck, I'm just going to go do something else now and sort of see what happens. So I was afraid someone was going to look at my credentials and go, wait a second, that guy's a lot of degrees.
No, that's good. That's good. All right, next question. All right. I'm interested in changing careers. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to start with the other question. Hello, Dr. Melissa. I'm an MBBS graduate from Pakistan. I am particularly interested in the field of neurosurgery and want to pursue it in the U.S. I have one publication and I'm going for another publication. I have done electives in neurosurgery in my hometown and my average GPA is 3.4. I don't think whether I would stand a chance because it's quite difficult for international medical graduates to get matched. Also, could you please advise me on how to contact doctors in the United States to get any recommendation, as it is too costly for me to plan electives in the United States? Thank you. Okay, good question. It is challenging for international medical graduates or graduates who are graduating outside of the United States to come in and get residency spots in the United States. And you do have to do very well on your boards, on your step 1, step 2, step 3, the USMLE licensing exams. You have to do very well. So that takes a lot of preparation for that. You also have to have done well in school. So having a 3.4 GPA may not be high enough. Quite frankly, to get into certain residency programs, especially neurosurgery. Even for a 3.4 GPA from an undergrad going into medical school is challenging, depending on the medical school within the United States. Then to get from medical school into neurosurgery residency is extremely competitive. You have to have graduated near the top of your medical school class. You have to have done well in the exams on the rotations because in the medical school we get graded on each rotation in the United States. And so it's just hard from the United States medical school graduates to get into a neurosurgical residency spot. So that's not to say you shouldn't try. But what I would highly recommend is that you do try to contact physicians or neurosurgery departments in the United States to land a volunteership. It's very hard to get in general. So if you've had some work experience in a laboratory in the United States, if you are able to fund that, that would probably be the way to do it. Unfortunately, though, it requires that you fund, often, not always, but often requires that you fund yourself to come for a period of time to someone's laboratory and actually work in that laboratory for a while. And you have to do really well. So if you come and you do something like that, you have to perform and bring your A game top of the line. And usually in order to get into that type of situation, you do have to just reach out to a whole wide variety of people that you found on the internet. That's really the only way to do it, unless you know somebody who's here who can help refer you in. So it is challenging. It's a long road. And my question back to you is this really the road you want to take? Is it really important for you to be a United States neurosurgeon? If that's your dream, then go for it. And you feel like it's real for you to follow that path, go for it. But also think about, the merits of being a neurosurgeon in Pakistan. I mean, that might be really amazing too. I think that sounds great. So good luck to you. Next question. I'm interested in changing careers from office administration to one in health administration. I want to earn a credential in health administration, focusing ultimately on a position in a non-clinical setting. I prefer to work within a hospital or acute care setting, but not as a clinician, but rather as a health administrator. What is your advice to secure a position in the non-scrub side of healthcare? Well, health administration. So there are several degrees in a master's in health administration that you can take. I know there's online programs and there's local programs globally, actually. There's several in the United States. So I would, again, like what Joel suggests, is make sure that the program is a strong program. It has a good track record of graduating people from their program with a master's in health administration who gets placed in good jobs that are aligned with the ones that you're interested in obtaining.
Yeah, and I would also clarify that depending on your current education credentials, if you have a bachelor's degree, then you can go for that master's degree in that field, and that makes a lot of sense. Sometimes there are little, I shouldn't use the word little, but there's certificate programs that you can take that would allow you to increase your chances of being accepted into a master's degree program. And if you haven't finished a bachelor's degree, certainly do that with an eye towards what it is that you want to do next, whether you can study health administration in particular there, or whether there would be classes that lead you to that graduate program. It's always important, if you're in the middle of an education program, to know as best you can what your next step is and to tailor the classes that you take to best fit that next goal whenever that's possible.
And also, depending on the type of position you want in health administration, you may not even need more credentials. So again, depending, you may want to have some informational interviews with people in jobs that you are interested in obtaining, like what we talk about in our course, and figure out maybe the first step isn't getting a master's degree or an advanced degree or a certificate. Maybe the first step is actually trying to get a job within the area that you want.
So I actually think this is a really important point. I think that, right, so sometimes a field like healthcare administration skills can be pretty similar, right? If you're good at finance, if you're good at budgeting, if you're good at HR, whatever it is, these are things that can translate over frequently. And I think it's great advice to say, before you necessarily jump right into a graduate degree program, if you can start working in it and then assess whether you want to continue your education. There's so many part-time options right now that if you have the opportunity to work in it, assess what it is you need, and then do that part-time program along with it, that can be a really good way to avoid jumping into a program that might not make sense for you, and then you're spending money on it and taking time when you might not have needed it in the first place. So that's great advice.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for articulating that better. Okay, another question. How do you overcome failure in this system? Even the smallest mistake in the field of work can be fatal. So what gets you through the day after a failure or mistake? I assume you are referring to clinical failure. So if a patient dies, or maybe less fatal in that sense. So a patient gets hurt because of what you did. This is going into the field of medicine. regardless of what member you are of the healthcare team, you will see mistakes. You may have participated in the mistake. You will see patients die, likely, depending on the field of healthcare you're in. And you learn from those. So again, like I said earlier on in this course and earlier on another Google Hangout, you have to reflect every day. You have to know, first, that you're in the career that you really want to be in, and that you're comfortable in it, and you have all the skill that you need and the knowledge that you need, or the ability to access that knowledge or help at when you need it. So I am very honest with the extent of my knowledge and my skill, and I am quick to say, I don't know, or I need help. I need to bring somebody in to help me with this, or I need to refer you to somebody who knows more about this. And that's a really important characteristic to have, regardless of what position in healthcare you are in, whether you're a physician or a nurse or a physician assistant, etc. And every day I reflect. I have a very supportive family. I'm very blessed. And when I do have face a fatality, a death, or something that just wasn't right, I get to talk about it, and I can talk about it to a counselor. There's always people that you can go to who are somebody who is like kind of a third party person, and you can talk it through if you are having some problem processing it, and then you can go home and have lots of love and support, and that's really important to me. So one more question, and then maybe we're going to wrap up, unless there's any other questions that are coming in. Okay. Sometimes situations have different dimensions to base decisions off of. How does a doctor or health professional make a decision that doesn't violate the specific code of ethics or conduct, but also procures what is right, per se? We've talked about this several times as well. You have to know what your particular values are, what your role is on the healthcare team, what the limits are of your knowledge. You have to know all of these things, and every day each profession has a code of conduct and ethics to adhere to, and there are always people who you can ask for consultation for ethics. Like in our hospital, we have an ethics team, as does most hospitals across this country and other countries. And so if there's ever a question in my mind as to what I should do, or a decision that I'm about to make, or a question that a patient proposes to me, I'm always thinking about that, and thinking about what are the consequences of the decision I'm going to make, or what are the consequences of what I'm going to say with this patient. And I am very fast to reach out for help and advice. That's really important. Just like I mentioned in the last question, know that you have people around you. You are not an island in and of yourself. And just because I'm a physician doesn't mean I know all the answers to everything. And just because I'm a physician doesn't mean I always will say something that is the right thing to say or the ethical thing. So I have to be very conscious of what I say and the decisions I make. Hopefully that answered the question. I'm sorry. There's two more questions.
Do we want to hit the two?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
So sure. So one of the questions says, I'm wondering what suggestions you have in terms of balancing a difficult career with your personal life, like deciding when to have kids and spending more time with your family, right? And there's no obviously no sort of magic formula. I think it's important to really like what you do. That can be hard. Like if you're in your 20s and you have a job, sometimes you can't love your job right out of the gate, right? It may take a while, so you kind of find the industry or the job that you want to be in. But if you can like or love what you do, that's important. And if that's the case, then a lot of this can fall into place, because you can just get a better intuitive sense of how you can spend time with your family and make big life decisions that will affect your ability to work, right? That life and that personal part of it is a really important part of our life course, as well as work, and that's just a very individual choice. Do you have more to add?
There really is. The word balance implies that everything really is a balance, and it's never the case. Something does give a little bit sometimes, and just know that you can make it up in that other realm later on. But if you do, again, constant self-reflection, making sure that you're doing the best you can. And if, say, for instance, your family domain or your community domain is lacking for a very long time, like you're focused on work and haven't done anything but work, that requires some self-reflection and really thinking twice about, are you on that right career path? Is this really right for you? Why aren't you taking some time for yourself? And how can you do that? How can you adjust course? And again, I emphasize this again, there are counselors who can help you if it's becoming too much of a problem and you need some advice.
And that sort of dovetails, I think, nicely with the last question we have here, is what motivates one to consider changing their job? And this is really all over the place, right? Some people change their job because they don't like it and they found a better opportunity. They change a job because they've got, they can sort of progress in the same field. They change fields. Sometimes people do it for financial reasons, right? I mean, a lot of people say, oh, you never, work for money, work to love your job. Money's pretty darn important, right? And to do something that will allow you to be financially secure, that is a realistic element of having a job. I mean, that said, it often doesn't work well to change just for financial reasons. Hopefully you will like it, because otherwise you're going to burn out very quickly in that job. And, and as you said, sort of that balance, with the ability to balance those things that are important to you, whether it's family or leisure time or intellectual stimulation or whatever else it is. People change jobs often to achieve a better balance overall for whatever's important to them.
Right, and life happens. So if you have an unfortunate circumstance that you personally have to deal with in your own health, or your one of your family members or good friends gets sick and you need to help care for them, and you need to step out of what you're doing and focus on helping and caregiving at that moment in your life, that's perfectly fine. And sometimes people have to take another job or change course a little bit, stop school for a little bit, or reduce classes in order to do that. And again, when you're finished with that part of your life and you move forward and then you explain that all, it's perfectly acceptable. You should never feel bad about needing to take a step back or changing jobs for a little bit and coming back, or changing jobs and then staying on a new course because you found something that you really like to do. So again, it's being able to tell the story. So there's so many permutations just of career and career trajectory, as you can see in the videos and in this course. And I hope we've emphasized that enough to you, that there's a lot of flexibility in life, and you just need to, keep going and reflect and be able to tell that whole story. All right, so I'm going to thank you very much for joining us. I hope we answered your questions. Thank you for the great questions that you've asked. So please complete your career portfolios, upload them, because it's helping you. And these are resources that we really hope that can help guide you to that next step in your career or along your pathway. And then next week, we're going to have a Google Hangout with Cynthia Gonzalez, talk about financial aid and financing education. So see you next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.